don't understand why you're 40 years old playing the game still. So.
Well, I mean, what game do you think you're going to be playing when you're 40? When do you think you're going to stop playing games? What's the age? What's the cutoff age?
When you're out of high school and college.
You're a high school kid?
Yeah, I'm out of high school. Yeah.
How old are you?
Why does it matter?
Well, I mean, you foresee yourself in the future quitting something you love, like video games? Do you not love video games? You just cruise through it.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of a waste of time when you're that old. But.
Well, how do you know? You're not old yet. I mean, I can think of probably reasons that video games would be a waste of time for a high school kid, too. Do you have a 4.0? Are you in honor classes to get more than a 4.0?
No, but...
You know what I'm saying? There's more things you could be doing to improve your life than playing video games, too, right?
Yeah, you study and not play games.
Hey, just recreation, man. Having fun. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
All right, then.
All right. Hello, everyone. Oh, I'm just making sure that there's no delay. My camera's being weird. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Arcade and the Weekend Culture. My name is Brian. I'm here with John, the problematic white guy, and we're going to be covering the events of the week. So, yeah, welcome to the show, John. How are you doing?
Oh, awesome as always. Seem to be having a slight tech issue, but I seem to have taken care of it at least good enough for the show. So I think I have to buy some new audio cables and hopefully get it all sorted out. But, I'll do that probably on Monday or something. So if I can make it till then. Or later today. Yeah, but we're here. We're live and we're doing the thing.
And everyone is here. It's you, it's me, it's JoJo, of course. And I also brought Vivian. She is sitting in the chat as an AI bot right now because she is completely vindicated. And this is the reason I stuck with this mascot the entire time. Well, first of all, I'm an artist and I was drawing a lot of Vivian artwork. A lot of my drawings of Vivian are floating around the internet from 2014, 2015. But also, somebody's saying that you sound a bit robotic. You don't sound robotic to me.
Yeah, I mean that's just because I'm a robot. But,
yeah, he's not real.
Yeah,
we're living in a simulation, and
yes, I'm an LMD. Everyone, I'm a life model decoy. I'm not,
Yeah. Well, let me know if that continues and it's really annoying, and I'll see what I can do. But. So yeah, we have been vindicated, like I said, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that. So let's just get right into it. Okay, so you guys probably heard there's a little bit of a hubbub around a little group called Doge, which again I don't know what it is, but I'm getting vindicated all over the place.
Indeed.
It's just a weird coincidence that 10 years ago, when we were all talking about Gamergate, at least the people who were here for the first one, I just happened to also be a big fan of the Doge meme, from the time. And then I use it as a profile picture, and everyone just started, well, at least the people who watched us, they all associated me with that meme. And so I would meet people at meetups and they'd be like, Doge, right? There's even a guy I still know. His name is Mitch. I hope you're out there, Mitch. What's up? He lives in Manchester, England, and we would see each other online, and he would just say Doge in big capital letters, and I would say Mitch, and now Doge is a thing. Everyone's talking. I hear people on MSNBC and CNN, having a meltdown, and they're saying Doge, and I think it's amazing. I think it's just it's come to be real. I was using I still have this program called Face Rig. It was basically the predecessor to Animes, and it had all these different characters. And the reason why I bought it, I think it might have been free, but the reason why I picked it up was because one of them was the Doge, and I was like, oh, I'm going to use that, and I did for a long time. And I have some old videos where we'll talk probably a little bit about David Jaffe at some point in the show, but I did some interviews with David Jaffe as the Doge 10 years ago, and he was even a bit, impressed. He was like, wow, I think that's really cool. Where'd you get that? And I told him, well, it's just on Steam. It's this, little program called Face Rig. I never ever used it, but it's just really weird how things come together. And then we learn now that Gamergate 2014 was right the entire time about how this is more than just ethics. And I think there were some people who wanted to stick to the ethics thing, but I think most of that was fear of being wrong or fear of being seen as wrong. And you know, I'm here to say, stop being afraid of being wrong. It's okay to like have questions and pursue, you know, different threads or go down rabbit holes. It might be a dead end. Yeah, it might turn out that you're wrong, but what is the value of learning that there might be some truth there? And so we come to today's story. You know what I'm saying, John? I don't know if you agree with me philosophically on this, but that's
Well, I
my
mean,
belief.
I've been talking about this for quite some time. I mean, last year, I hope that the stuff I was bringing up last year finally resonates with people, because what have I been saying since you know me? We need to do more than just burn the witches every week and
Sure.
find new witches to burn. We need to actually get behind all that and figure out, where does this witchcraft come from? And you know, a lot of people would say, "Oh, well, that's conspiratorial minded," and it's like, no, that's analyzing an agenda that has, you know, really brought itself to bear, especially in recent weeks. And you know, there's no coincidence that you know, these things that seem like they were very far apart are ultimately intrinsically connected. You know, Gamergate being the byproduct of all this, you know, corporate directed and bureaucratically, you know, infiltrated malfeasance into the gaming industry. I mean, last year when I put out my report on the way that the WF uses their, you know, abilities to create a back end finance channel, only adds into what we're seeing. And so a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, you know, has really just been years in the making, and it goes in a lot of weird directions, and you know, like affects people's sensibilities. And so, like right now, like there's going to be a lot of confusion, even in just kind of the discussing it, because there's going to be some aspects to this that some people probably won't want to believe, but I assure you that, you know, like the government is far worse than you know, anyone wants to you know, appreciate or understand, or even take the time to you know, give consideration to. But this is how we actually end up in a, you know, ultra woke society that nothing seemingly makes sense, because it's actually quite literally being handicapped right at, you know, the source of all this kind of meddling, where, you know, like they're quite, you know, their whole intent is to create the disconnect, to create the, you know, antagonism, and to make sure that people are kind of at each other's throats, while they get to just stand back and just watch everybody just kind of like, you know, act like a pit of vipers. And then, you know, once we're all divided, they can come in and easily conquer. And so that's really kind of what's been at play. And so this actually getting exposed uh, is really one of the best things, because for as much as I like to think that we as YouTubers were trying to fight the valiant fight and all this kind of stuff, I would try to, you know, show my information to people who have a higher capabilities because of their platform status and things like that, and just would never even go anywhere. So for this to actually kind of come about because, you know, of a government audit, as it were, and actually get it to where people are like, oh shit, look at all this, like, you know, stuff that, like, you know, really shouldn't be happening, taking place, and it's all right in front of me. It's like, yeah, like all you've had to do is check this money trail for like any point in time in, like, you know, the past decade, and you would have seen aspects of this, but now it's all just laid out right in front of you. So you have to take it in at this point, even if you were trying to ignore it. So I feel a little bit of vindication myself as well, for as many times as I was called, you know, some kind of conspiracy theorist, or a person who was just, you know, all too pessimistic about all these things, and how, you know, like, oh, this is just, you know, artistic integrity of people, like, just kind of like, you know, putting what they want into things. And it's like, maybe in the small scale, but you know, there's even aspects of that that have been augmented and nudged, as it were, because they like to use that, you know, phrase all the time. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation today, to say the least.
Yeah. So let's start by getting into what has happened, what we have learned, which I knew, well, at least I suspected that, you know, all of these these groups were astroturfed. In particular, like the anti-Gamergate voices, your Anita Sarkeesians and your Zoe Quinns and your, Jason, what's his name, Schreiers or whatever. All these like big gaming journalist outlets were getting paid. And this is Grum's. This is a screenshot of his tweet where he says, "Nah, that can't be true. Searches, holy shit. USAID paid Politico to have Gamergate smeared." And I'm sure, and this is the thing that is worth pointing out. It's not, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it looks like the U.S. government did X to this, particular like website." Guys, let's be real. It's not only the U.S. government. It's basically all kinds of like intelligence agencies all over the world, first of all. And the other thing is, it's not just Politico. I mean, like when I learned that Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian managed to get a seat at the table at the United Nations, I was like, that is super fishy. Like that means that these people have a lot more influence than they're letting on. Why would the UN concern itself with two like professional victim feminists and their complaints about gamers if there wasn't like something serious at play that they wanted to do? So
right.
Yeah.
And that's basically kind of the stuff that I put out last year because I saw a weird connection in GDC where they had God, her name's so hard to pronounce. She's from India, but it's Upadai, India. I can't pronounce it right now, but yeah, like there is direct money channels that have been arranged through the WF and the United Nations specifically under the efforts of climate change to infiltrate the gaming industry to help kind of shape the minds of young people. They want to do it using virtual reality simulators and all this kind of stuff. And this is just, that's what this is a further reinforcement of that. Like people don't want to think that like, video games are getting infiltrated by these NGOs and these large scale, think tanks and all this kind of stuff. But that is exactly what is happening. And this is, we could also have called today's episode Alex Jones Was Right, because this is quite literally the, the furthest reaches of the info war. All happening right at the front line of where it intersects with reality, or virtual reality,
for sure,
as it were.
For sure. So the subject of this particular article or these articles is that it was discovered that Politico has been revealed to have received more than $8 million through USAID, which is the United States Agency for International Development. Essentially, USAID is the CIA PSYOP center, and it's probably not the only one. That's another thing that we have to understand, that just because we've exposed one cockroach doesn't mean that there isn't an infestation. So that we should remain vigilant, okay? But USAID, don't call it USAID if you can help it, because USAID suggests something very like benevolent, and it's not, okay? It's not about aiding anything. It's essentially about like it's about a lot of things, much of which is not good. And a lot of it has to do with things like regime change and propagandizing other countries and like, performing like psyops on them and bringing them like, leftist revolutionary ideas so that they can like disrupt those societies and those cultures. But it also does it to us. So it's not like, something that we are only doing to everyone else. Obviously, USAID and the CIA, they're doing that to us. They're turning men against women. They're turning blacks against whites and all of that with all of this commie gobbledygook. It's all about disruption, and it's all about creating antagonism or fostering antagonism that might lie under the surface to like boost it, right? So there's a lot of government money involved in this. And the Trump administration just cut it. Okay, they basically cut it off. And in this particular article, which is from That Park Place, which I will show you guys really quick here, it says that this article highlights Politico's extensive coverage of Gamergate, which Politico framed as a disinformation and harassment campaign. it suggests that this narrative was supported by USAID funding, which it was, thereby questioning whether taxpayer money was used to promote a specific political propaganda narrative against gamers within gaming journalism. And I will also add that the reason why this was really effective is they used female victimhood to do it. They said, you are hurting women, and that was a very useful tool. And the truth is, there are people to this day that believe that Gamergate was some kind of misogynistic harassment campaign, even though people were trying to deny, or they were fighting against that narrative till they were blue in the face. And I kind of early on, I was like, guys, just forget it. Like, they're going to do this no matter what. If you keep trying to prove that you're not a bigot, it just doesn't matter. Like, you just have to plug on with what your goals are, because that's all a distraction. Obviously, you know what kind of person you are. So
Right.
that was that. And there's they spent money to I think they have transition from propaganda in parts of Africa and South America. They're promoting Drag Queen Story Hour in places. There was a play about transgenderism. They were involved with the Black Lives Matter riots and the narratives around that. So basically, Minneapolis being burned down and all that shit, that was all the CIA. That was all a giant op. January 6th was a giant op. All of it was lies. And we knew this. But people bought into it. And I don't know if this is going to change anyone's mind, because I think that if you invest in an idea, even if that is a lie, for long enough, it's very painful to change your mind, and it requires a tremendous amount of humility. And I think that most people just don't have that in them.
Oh yeah, no, I can tell you. I went and I just because I like to check the barometer of things using my Facebook, because of all the people that I know there from my days in a liberal arts school. And you'd like to think that this might be kind of like a come to Jesus moment in some ways for these people, but no, like the last thing that they even want to even talk about is what has actually been revealed, and it's more just kind of like gaslighting about all sorts of other situations that have no real bearing on reality. It's just, people caught up in their tism zone. So, they're going to do everything they can to outright deny and ignore that this is even something that has taken place and has ultimately incepted their lives, and undermine their capability to actually discern and, make decisions in their own right. They have, when we talk about the woke mind virus and people being NPCs and getting the download, this is the thing. This is it. This is how that takes place. And people, the brainwashing is working when you expose the brainwashing, the people are just like, I don't see it. I don't know what you're talking about, man. It's like,
yeah,
they're
for sure.
They're so indoctrinated in it. They cannot stop the worship.
They want to believe it, though. They really want it to be true that gamers hate women, that men hate women, and that they really want it to be true. That's why they go along with it. That's why they won't question it.
Right.
So, and it's honestly, if there's a psyop you can use to turn one group of people against another group of people, turning women against men is the easiest. It's the easiest because they're already primed to be afraid. And so all you have to do is make them afraid. And all you have to do that is bring a bunch of other women forward that claim to be afraid. And then those women convince, normal women that they should also be afraid. And it works. It's the most effective form. That's why feminism has managed to survive for hundreds of years, despite it being based on a complete lie, because women are primed to believe it. So this is why it's so effective.
Feminism has been a product of the CIA since its inception.
Yes. So here are some political articles. The way that they essentially propagandize Gamergate is to bring it into other things. So here was one, says the weirdly political legacy of Ghostbusters. This is from 2021. And of course they dropped this. It says, while its director, Paul Feig, tweeted in 2014 that it's official, I'm making a new Ghostbusters and it will star hilarious women. That's who I'm going to call. It triggered a Gamergate-style backlash from angry folks. Then there's how Yang charmed the right on his road to political stardom. That's Andrew Yang. And of course, they drop these like terms, these buzzwords, like, in prior years, Rubin interviewed Yiannopoulos, Pizzagate promoter Mike Cernovich, anti-feminist Gamergate personality Sargon of Akkad, Candace Owens, and the white supremacist internet personality Stefan Molyneux. So it's all about like you drop these words, and then people make negative associations with them, and that's how this works, right? Obviously, I spoke to Stefan Molyneux, and I know Sargon somewhat. Like I've hung out with him a couple of times. None of this is true, but it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. They have an agenda, and they're paid by the state. That's ultimately what it is. And then MAGA activists plot revenge on Republican traitors. They also drop Gamergate again. So mostly involves opening the envelopes with each state's electoral college votes and then handing them to a secretary for recording. Alexander Macris, a video game writer who became known for his role in Gamergate, the online harassment campaign targeting women. So, and that's the way it works. Okay. And they $8 million just to Politico. I think that what this means is, first of all, and you got to take the W, guys. If you never doubted, Gamergate supporters like myself or whoever else is in your circle, you should feel vindicated by this. And Trump probably didn't even know he was doing it. He probably was just like, I don't like the spending. What is this? And then Elon Musk got on it and had his words to say. And I would gather, Grums was on X. I should find his tweet here.
I was gonna say that clip I sent you actually substantiates what you just said, where this all just kind of like came to light by chance. And it was only because like they couldn't leave well enough alone. President Trump was ultimately trying to put a 90-day pause on all this outgoing money, and they persisted to try to go around him because they think that because this is the CIA. These are the criminals in America that are trying to undermine us all and keep us all at each other's throats. So I mean, it's hilarious how I'm
gonna get that. I'm gonna get that clip. But I want to find, because Grums, and I think that it's right to do this. So this is a meme, but I think it's great. Gamers Rise Up was always a credible threat. And you guys should be able to see that. Why can't I move the... Oh, I know, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Woe to those. And then we have the Oren McIntyre sharing this meme. Companies keep putting woke stuff in video games. The total collapse of the global liberal order. It's true. And you know what I think it is? Because you have to ask yourself, okay, if it was just something about video games, why did so many people get so upset? Like, why did so many people in journalism start making hit pieces? Why all of the gamers are dead articles? Why all of this stuff where, why did like Zoe Quinn and Zanita Sarkeesian end up at the UN? Why was the reaction to this so strong? And at the time, it was actually a pretty mild criticism. They were just like, hey, we don't like this, the fact that Zoe Quinn is like banging dudes to get good reviews on her games. Like, it was like this nepotistic, incestuous thing that they were calling out, and it created this massive reaction. Now, I think that, with this, you could say continuation of Gamergate or Gamergate 2 or whatever you want to call it, there's actually more, like, people are more tuned in to what's happening, which is why they're having, there are these big debates about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and like the woke shit being in games and killing the industry, which we want, because we don't want these things to stick around, because what we know now is that the CIA invests money in propaganda. And like I've been saying, video games are the new Hollywood, especially because Hollywood itself is burning to the ground, like literally. Like there's like it doesn't have a leg to stand on. It's doing very poorly. So what is the next form of cultural media that we're going to be grappling with? And that's going to be video games. That's the future. And they know it, which is why they want to control it. That's why they don't like that gamers have opinions, because you're supposed to shut up and consume the slop, whatever we put in front of you, because that's how it was for most of our cultural history, right? A new album came out, and you you had to be told what to buy. Oh, you got to buy the new thing because it's good. We told you so. We're the experts. The new movie comes out. We're telling you what you should watch. You should like it, right? They'll shit on anything that goes against the grain or it doesn't like fall in lockstep with whatever their ideology is. That's what they're doing with video games now. And the mistake they're making is they think that gamers are stupid. And I think that a lot of them are not. Like they're completely waking up to this. So I wanted to, oh, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave me a comment, like make it active. I see that the Rumble people are like all kinds of vocal, which is impressive. But YouTube guys are kind of lurking and it's making me feel alone over here. So, you know, help me out. But there was one other thing that Grums did that I thought was neat because I think that these little symbolic things matter a lot. He basically shared an image of Vivian James and said that we should all be doing that. I want to find it. Gamergate is winning. Yeah, USAID is abolished. They literally took it down. Like Trump had it removed. That was one thing. But I'm trying to find the image that he shared. In the meantime, I don't know if you wanted to say anything to what I just said, but
well, I mean, like I was saying earlier, you know, a lot of this stuff really has just been, you know, a long time coming. Where, you know, for everything that has kind of been set up over the course of the last 10 years, I mean, it even goes further beyond that. But 10 years is kind of like the impetus point of when they really started to bring it to bear and actually try to undermine gaming as, you know, a cultural point of just, you know, male interactivity and things like that, where we could actually, you know, have a space that kind of, you know, allowed for men to be men and have some sense of community, or just a place that wasn't occupied by all this other insanity. And so, you know, ultimately, it seems like that's really what they wanted to do, was take away the ability of having a strong, independently minded populace that could actually communicate to each other openly and freely. You know, and so that's what a lot of this stuff is about. Is, you know, this is censorship of thought, and, you know, the ability to actually have people being able to express themselves in a manner that, you know, while it may seem rough on the outside or whatever, to somebody who's passing by, you know, shit talking in games has been going on since the dawn of time, whatever that game may take the form of. And so when they talk about online harassments and things like that, all they're trying to do is limit the capacity of human interaction, because we are far from perfect. You know, we're not meant to, you know, just be incessantly polite to a fault, to where we're not even able to express our own frustrations, or even kind of give somebody a little bit of a nut check from time to time, when, you know, like especially in games, like, you know, like teabagging, things like that, you know, and like, you know, just kind of like you know, getting a rise out of someone, you know, like these are things that are actually decent for you to experience in life, because life is not easy. And trying to superimpose this weird kind of sensibility that everything will be okay if you just let us, you know, have control, you know, that is one of the most insidious kind of pervasive things that we've allowed to, you know, really take shape over the last 10 years. And I'm glad to see that, you know, all this fighting that we've done, you know, during this time, and actually trying to call it out, and, you know, point out that, hey, you know, I'm not sitting here trying to hate on everyone. I just want the ability to, like, you know, like, say some things that, you know, might not necessarily seem like the nicest, kindest thing in the moment, but just because you say something that's a little bit rough doesn't mean that you're, you know, consumed with all these isms that they try to cast on people.
No, that's
you
all
know?
fake. It's all fake to me. I mean, I'm of the Jesse Lee Peterson school of thought, which is that there is no such thing as racism, sexism, Islamophobia, homophobia, anti-Semitism. None of that is real. I don't think it is. I think it's a tool of control. And you can, you know, if you have hate in your heart, then you have hate in your heart. So fucking what? But I don't care about that because I can choose to associate with whoever I want to associate with. It's just a lot easier to deal with than have to like figure out whether or not something was sexist or racist or like, I don't care. And besides, the amount of damage that's been done to our country just on the threat of the possibility of some kind of ism or phobia is far more like, you know, it's far more of a problem than like the existence of those isms, you know?
Right.
So I'm just so past it. And I'm glad that I think a lot of people are just over it. I'm glad about that too, because that's what has to happen. Like, I'm sorry, but they overplayed their hand. And yeah, I see people in the chat, they're saying like, you know, that the link between the USAID and the funding of the lab in Wuhan should raise a few eyebrows. Yes, it's all related, guys. It's all related. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think that the BLM riots, the COVID stuff, the Gamergate stuff, the January 6th stuff, all of it was essentially just like a giant series of ops and plays to try and you know, take control of a person they couldn't control. That was what it was. So and it manifests in a number of different ways, and that is the apparatus, or at least it's one of them, because again, I'm telling you guys, it's not just the CIA and USAID. There are probably a number of different things under an umbrella, the CIA's umbrella. USAID is one of them, and we're going to find more as time goes on. Remember, we've just started. It's been like only a couple of weeks at the end of the day, but it's also not just the United States. You know, the Sweet Baby Inc., for example, I learned this today, and I think this is worth mentioning, and this is why I think Vivian is more relevant than ever. I just learned the other day that Sweet Baby Inc. and other consulting firms, you know what? They don't actually do any writing consultancy. All the stuff they claim they do, they don't do. It's not the main purpose. The main purpose is that they are the gatekeepers of funding for video game developers. Right. That is like the DEI funding. So
and that's the stuff I was talking about from my thing last year. Is there is funding models in place, and people are like, they look at me like I don't even know what I'm talking about. But yes, this whole thing is a top-down driven kind of way to keep developers, actual game designers, people who have artistic integrity, from being able to ever implement it, because they have all these you know, cattle gates in place to make sure that things follow a political kind of paradigm.
Yeah, and so what they do is because Sweet Baby Inc. is not aware of this. They're being used as well. That's why Kim Belair keeps saying, well, we're just like a tiny little group in like Montreal. And it's like, yeah, but the people that you are crossing, you're checking boxes for like bigger fish like BlackRock. And BlackRock is telling developers, if you don't do this, then we're not going to give you our money, the DEI money, obviously, the ESG money. And you know, so like Sweet Baby Inc. gets used in the process.
Yeah, they're the thought police. They're hall monitors. That's all they are.
Yeah, they're still evil, but like they're stupid. They're useful idiots for these corporations, like these big, not even corporations. They just like, they don't make anything. Like they just run the banks. Like that's not even a job, you know? But anyway, I'm getting a little off course here. My point is that gamers like myself and you, John, and others are sort of like pulling back the curtain and exposing the Wizard of Oz for what he is. And more people are waking up to that. And yeah, it's all connected. Like everything that they do overseas, like to start regime change and all this other shit, they did that to us. That's what COVID was. That's what BLM riots were. That's what all of that is. That was what the January 6ers getting like locked up without trial, like all of that. And we should know where that's coming from. So, you know, I'm grateful that it's being exposed. And well, there's some more stuff about this that I should, but we're going to learn more about this as time goes on. Like what other ways that USAID and other you know, CIA ops, and also the Europeans are in on it. Obviously, The Brits are in on it. Like their government.
There's a lot
like,
of special interest groups that they
Yeah.
utilize. You know, like I've been
Yep.
saying, like the International Game
Canada,
Developers Association, the IGDA,
Mossad.
and the
Mhm.
GDC. You know, GDC's right around the corner. They sent me because I have what's known as problematic productions. It's my way of staying, connected to the gaming industry. And so they constantly are sending me information from GDC. The first panel that they announced this year is for accessibility initiatives, and so it's not like they're stopping. They're going to try to find ways to keep getting all these kind of weird leftist mindset kind of thought crimes into the game industry.
Yeah.
And so of course,
it is important to note that 90% of the members of USAID donated to the Democrat Party, but really they were leftists. That's more important that they were Democrats. They were leftists, and that's important to point out. So,
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, well, you can continue. I'll see if I can find the article so I can actually bring up who all is going to be involved at it, because it's really quite interesting. It's basically all the companies that you would expect, except for Sony for some reason. Sony's not involved in it, but yeah, give me just a second. I will find the email so I can get it pulled up, and we'll just add it in as a nice little addendum to all this.
Right. So, I'm gonna you look at some more related stuff, but just saying long live Vivian is why I say that. And if you guys have any Vivian art, share it on my X, but you can just tag me in it at Badger Arcade. I love that, and I'd appreciate if you guys could do that, because, well, it's like, do it for her. That thing from The Simpsons. Do it for her. Do it for our daughter, Vivian James. All right. So I have this video. This is a video that John sent me. I'm going to play it. Let me just put it up on the screen. And this is from Autism Capital. Okay.
People who come first, they're probably the ones who are in on the biggest grift, because, hey, I figured out how to grift this money. How USAID got to the top of the Doge list, I think, is one of the most interesting aspects of this story. So, if you remember, on January 21st, Trump decided he would do a bunch of executive orders, right? And one of them was to pause foreign aid for 90 days. Okay, this seems reasonable. We got to take care of our country. That was part of his mandate for becoming the 47th president of the United States. So a couple of days later, the White House said, hey, this USAID leadership is trying to circumvent the executive order. In other words, they're just going to keep paying people even though the executive order came out. That alerted the Doge team. So Elon confirmed this on X. He said, quote, all Doge did was check to see which federal organizations were violating the president's executive orders the most. Turned out to be USAID, so that became our focus. And according to NBC, security officials at USAID tried to prevent Doge from even getting into the building or accessing the systems. To your point, Antonio, the person probably who's got the most to hide is the one who's going to fight the most. Over the weekend, Doge gained access to USAID, and then people started tweeting out all of this, crazy spend and things that any American who looks at it and says, wait a second, if we haven't fixed the goddamn water in Flint, Michigan, why are we sending money to Galway or in Ireland to do a DEI musical? This makes no sense. And that's, I think, the key piece of this, Antonio, is can you win the hearts and minds of Americans? Because some of this stuff, I don't know if it's legal or it's not legal or it's against protocol or it is protocol. We're going to find out. There's been tons of legal cases and lawsuits that have been filed. But to your point, this is how Elon found out about USAID.
Yeah. So it was basically because they were trying to get around it, and so they got caught. And obviously, this is also the great thing about this. They're calling us grifters. They're literally grifting off of our taxpayer dollars. And I know that the people who some people like Alyssa Mercante, for example, or the folks over at Kotaku, like Schreier, they would love to get this money. you know, and they would love to be able to grandstand and like, you know, sort of like morally, you know, dominate everyone around them for being good people while taking this money. And a lot of them have taken this money. And I'm very interested to see how much more is revealed. And we're going to learn a lot more. So I know that like the scale of this USAID thing seems like it's beyond gaming, but because this is a show focused on the culture, I think it's important to point out because they were been subverting our culture for a long time. You mentioned the CIA, you know, was involved with the feminist movement. Like Gloria Steinem, who is like considered like the mother of second wave feminism, was a CIA asset, if not a straight up agent. A lot of the what I believe is like Playboy magazine, these kind of like adult magazines, they were also involved with that. They were also getting government money. The whole sexual revolution of the 1960s is probably astroturfed. I mean, just and why? Because of what it later on produced. So a lot of the times these people play the long game, and so we have to start thinking in terms of the long game as well. So yeah, the Canadian Freedom Convoy a few years ago might be linked to, yeah, the debanking and stuff that happened. Yes, that's another good example. Ukraine, yes, absolutely. I think we're going to learn, I hope so, if they confirm the team already. I think that, I don't know if Kash Patel has been confirmed yet, but there was a woman whose name slips my mind that they recently confirmed who's like completely fucking based. And there was an RFK and Tulsi Gabbard. I'm hoping for those to go through as well. Ms. Magazine, yes, Robert Johnson. Ms. Magazine was supported by CIA as well.
Yep.
They funded it, yes. Amnesty International, UNICEF, yeah. Well, like I said, we're going to learn.
Yep.
I mean, if they, I wouldn't be surprised if the UN is going to be an obstacle. I think that NATO is going to be an obstacle.
Definitely.
Yeah,
most definitely. And I would say to anybody out there who is a content creator, start researching GDC, start researching the IGDA. These are the things that we need to actually put our time and our focus into to see how, you know, because when you mention the UN, when you mention the WEF and how they go about doing these things, they use special interest groups and think tanks specifically to do their dirty work, much like we were talking about with you know, the likes of Sweet Baby Inc. and all these consulting firms. And so I found the thing that I wanted to mention. So this is going to be so on Thursday.
Is it a link or a website, or are you just giving us some info?
It's just some quick info right now. There's not really much more to it other than just like a mention. So so I keep up to date with GDC, and they're trying to get me to go to the next GDC, which starts next month on the 19th of March and goes throughout the week. And so the first panel that they actually mention is called From Idea to Action, Lessons from New Accessibility Initiative. And this is going to be on Thursday, March 20th, starting at 12:15 Pacific time on the West Hall, the main stage. And its description is: unlock the power of play with the the Entertainment Software Association, the ESA, which is another group people should look into because of the way that they're funded, as the host of an exclusive main stage presentation to bring awareness to new initiatives on accessibility and discuss how 5 organizations have come together to create an industry-wide program designed to improve and expand player experience. So I need to do more research on these people, but and I invite anybody else to. The first one being Amy Lazarus. She's the director of player inclusion at EA, at Electronic Arts. Then another lady named Dara Monash. She's the product manager at Play Games for Google. And then there's also Anna Weismeyer. She's the senior accessibility research lead at Microsoft. Then we have Stephen Evans. He is the senior technical program manager for Nintendo of America. And then David Tisserand, who's the director of accessibility at Ubisoft. And more often than not, and this is the thing about Ubisoft, is they are very connected to all of these things. And which is why when we talk about like how Ubisoft is full of all the fuckery and one of the worst, you know, institutions in the game industry, it's because they are more often than not directly funded or indirectly funded through the WF and the United Nations specifically. it is basically
Yeah.
state-based media in and of its own right because of the way that all this money's collected, and so all this kind of stuff, which is the thing that I find the most abhorrent about this, is people all talking about how like they don't want to live in a country full of state-based media. Well, guess what? When your tax dollars go to get turned around to be used against you, you're dealing with state-based media. The moderator for this, his name is Paul Amadeus Lane, and he's a consultant, speaker, and a journalist. He is a black man that is paralyzed to some degree because he's in a wheelchair, so he wins the Accessibility Olympics to be able to be the guy who's there to have the conversation. But you've got, you've got EA, Google, Microsoft, Nintendo of America, and Ubisoft all having a conversation about how they're planning to make accessibility the focus of games going forward. So this is not going to end anytime soon. Even with this exposure, they're going to try to find more insidious ways to keep it moving forward, which is why I'm telling everyone, you have to look into GDC. You have to look into the ESA. You have to look into the IGDA and the way that they are operated as special interest groups and the funding that they have behind them. It's not that hard. You just have to take the time to do it. And if we all start making that the focus of our conversations about the topics of the day, rather than, all this infighting and all this fucking witch burning, then we'll all be better off in 6 months to a year from now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I remembered. I think her name is Pam Bondi, Attorney General. That's a good pick, and she's been an absolute pit bull against leftists and the deep state. And it is the deep state ultimately we're looking at here. And I also want to point out that USAID was funding Anita Sarkeesian. They were giving her money, which is why I made this like the particular focus. Yep. They were also funding Disney. And so that should make sense to people, right? Remember, I mentioned Sana Amanat, who was she was like a head of storytelling over at Marvel Comics when Marvel Comics was bought by Disney, and Sana Amanat was very good friends with the Obamas. This is not a coincidence. And Sana Amanat had this opinion that, and it's like looking at looking through a keyhole at a bigger picture. Okay,
right.
She had said openly, without fear, that the point of, in her mind, the point of the comics was not about the sales of the book, like how well the books do, but about the impact. And the impact is controlling the cultural story. And you might say that comic books are kind of a silly thing, but that, again, you're looking at a small piece of something bigger. If there's a Sana Amanat in every single industry, in every single aspect of our culture, and they're all doing that, then it suddenly becomes a much bigger problem. And there are, this is everywhere. This is why our culture is so sick. This is why we're like struggling so much to like find anything good. And they're also gatekeepers. They're telling you what you should and should not be using, or what, I don't want to say consume because that's got a bit of a negative connotation, but like what it is that what stories you're being told, what stories you want to experience, and they want to control that. So, Sana Amanat is the creator of Ms. Marvel, the Middle Eastern Muslim superhero teenager.
Basically, what you're invested in.
Yeah, people who, the character that fell on its face, and they've rebooted her book like 5 times. And what is her solution? Well, they're putting them in libraries. So what does that mean? They're turning them into publicly funded entities. So now they're getting your money whether you want to or not, because libraries are funded by the taxpayer. This is also what happened with Star Wars. What is the High Republic? Well, it's, other than a woke reimagining of Star Wars, it's also in libraries. So, it's like, it's how they do it. It's like, well, if people don't want to buy it, then we'll teach it to them in our schools. We'll make it part of, the library, and then people will have to watch it there. And they'll probably do that also with film and video games as well. But we can say no to that. We have to say no to that. So I just want to say, like, just so you can see, like, how big this is and how far back it goes. Right. It's just now coming to light, but this is a big issue.
And if I could make one more little addendum, I just pulled it up. Her name specifically, and this is the woman that I did the expose on last year. Her name is Nidhi Upadhyaya, which is spelled like Upadhyaya. So if anybody can tell me how I mispronounced it, have at it. But who she is she's the deputy director of strategic initiatives and partnerships of the Adrian Arsht Rockefeller Foundation, Resilience Center within the Atlantic Council. And so she is one of the key financiers that puts all these money market initiatives into place. And so that's what I'm saying is there is so much, as you were saying, this is like looking through the keyhole and seeing that there's this whole thing that's happening on the other side. And so that's why it's so important that we actually, now that we understand the structure of this, and it isn't just some weird woke people from Canada, which is what I was trying to get across to so many people last year, and they're just like, yeah, but we want to make fun of these Canadians. Like, well, I understand it's easy, and we can do that too, but ultimately we actually have to figure out the control structure that brought all these, crippled, exploited, crazy Canadians to the forefront to begin with. Because even and that's kind of like the thing about having some measure of respect for your enemy, is understanding that a lot of them have been exploited and don't even understand the rot that has happened in their own heart and mind, body, and soul along the way. Because if you want to just sit here and say, oh, it's these people, right? Then you're always going to end up at the end of the day saying, oh, it's all these people. And it's just going to change out the names and the faces, but the control structure, unless we get down to that and actually start understanding how and why it operates in the way that it does, and stop telling people that bring this to your attention, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist, or you're just looking for stuff that isn't there, man. No, it is so pervasive. It is quite literally, we are seeping in it. We live in the fucking matrix. It's just doesn't have to be like on some weird kind of fucking hard drive kind of simulation reality, but our reality is being simulated and laid out in front of us, so that we actually have to contend with all the bullshit and all the kind of, platformed kind of insanity that they want to be there, because they don't want us to actually just have the ability to live our lives and actually focus on actual legitimate issues. All this stuff is being astroturfed, and we have to take the time, if we are actually mature and responsible and don't want to deal with this forever, then we have to take care of it right now. It's kind of like when your room's dirty. If you don't clean it, it's never going to get clean. And so that's where we're at. You have to actually deal with this situation as it is, not for what you want it to be. If you want it to be just a whole bunch of silly Canadians that you want to poke fun at, well, then guess what? You're actually doing the opposition a favor, because you yourself are being a useful idiot, because you're not actually getting beyond the, just the surface of things. And you got to stop being so embedded in the surface. We have to go beyond that. We have to venture into the darkness and actually see where it leads.
Clean up your room.
Indeed.
All right. And one other thing too I wanted to mention, I know that there's still a lot more coming out, but the USAID has also funded the BBC and all of our, so it's like funding something that's already state media for the UK. Why would they do that? And again, I have to remind people, so that we don't get too hyper focused on the CIA in America. There are organizations in other countries that are also doing it. And it hasn't come out yet, but if Canadian people get their shit together, they can expose their own government in the same way. And I bet that Trump doing this is making people who live in other societies think, what if that's happening here? So there's going to be I think a downstream effect. I'd like to know what you guys think about that. So we're going to move on to the next story. The rest of these are basically not as consequential. No. But yeah, so let's look at the next one. So I want to talk a little bit about this Daniel Vavra thing. This is the developer of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And it turns out that he was never really based at all, which I don't really, I guess it doesn't surprise me. I never played the first one, but I should probably at least take a look at this. So, let's see. Warhorse Studio founder Daniel Vavra, the founder of Warhorse, like I said, and here's the key points from the Smash JT article that I'm using as a reference. The article discusses Vavra's earlier claims of historical accuracy in the first Kingdom Come Deliverance game, particularly his assertion that there were no black people in medieval Bohemia. This is contrasted with the introduction of a character named Musa in the sequel, which seems to contradict Vavra's previous statements about the absence of diversity in the game setting. He also has apparently, and like I wasn't going to make this a topic until I saw that this isn't just a gay romance option. It's also like a bit, like PDF-y. So
right. There's a lot to this situation. Like this one's really kind of like this is a litmus test for your discernment because like there's I have a lot of thoughts within the context of this issue because there's certain aspects of it to where it's just kind of like, well, you got to kind of like decide for yourself and I mean I don't know. I know plenty of gay people. I know plenty of black people. I know some gay black people. So I like when I see things like John Delaraz like saying like woke is anything gay and black. It's kind of like I think that's a little bit of a
no. I agree. It's a simple. It's an oversimplification.
That's an oversimplification.
I made a comment on that thread because I think somebody else started that thread and asked that question and. So the thing about John Delaros is, and I've spoken to him a few times, been on his show a couple times too.
There's some interesting stuff that's come out about him this week as well.
Like,
he's evidently catfishing men as a woman named Daniela Asaraz or Sarah.
Well,
yeah. So I mean, like, there's all sorts of interesting stuff in his own skeleton, closet. And that's the thing is like I think that a lot of his stuff is deflection and projection to kind of keep from digging any further into who he actually is. And so he's just trying to like, do like this weird little spin. But again, this issue that some of the stuff that you get into and in this Smash JT article specifically, they do go beyond the surface of things, which is what we were just talking about. On the surface, I think this is kind of like, a storm in a teacup kind of situation where it's like, if you enjoy the game, you enjoy the game. If you make decisions that are based on a role-playing game, because like we've had gay role-play game options in the past. I don't think anybody made a big deal about this stuff when Mass Effect came out initially or anything like that. But when you kind of start getting into some of the other inner workings of how they were funded and, all that kind of stuff, it does kind of open it up to that whole kind of idea of the meddling and the nudging that happens, at those higher levels, kind of incepting reality by infusing it into the design process itself. So there's a lot that goes into this.
Yeah. So I mean, the first game, was a kind of like a flashpoint in the culture war because it was there were a few things about the game that were explicitly anti-woke, or at least like on the surface, that's how it looked, right? So for example, the setting is medieval Bohemia. All of the Christianity is the norm there. I mean, it would be in an even medieval period. So everybody was Christian. They would greet you with like, something like, Christ is king, like as part of their hello, as like a greeting. And that was normal. Now, I never played it because I'm not into like hyper realistic historical stuff, but if people are, then that's fine, right? And also, when he was asked, and that's what because he was kind of confronted by the woke game journos about his game. There's like, well, why isn't there diversity? And he was like, well, there wasn't at the time, right? He's trying to be, historically accurate, and so the gamers got behind him and they supported him for that, and so I think it was part of the reason why his game sold well. Since then, I think his game was sold to Embracer Group, and they brought the rights, and then they started making changes. And I think that he was essentially tasked with supporting those changes. This is another sort of top-down thing that the left does, right? So the left has a few ways they do things. And most of it comes down to they try to appeal to authority. So like this person that's very important said this thing so that I like, so you have to agree with it. Or they appeal to majority, like most people enjoy this thing. So why are you the weirdo that doesn't? You should just join us. Or they appeal to consensus. These studies find these experts have said,
Mhm.
you know, and so you have to go along with it. And it's all about removing your ability to just sort of like
Think
have
for
your
yourself.
own opinion. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's removing your ability to have your own opinion. And so when they get Daniel Vavra to come out and cape for his video game that's obviously been, you know, adapted or changed in some way to satisfy like Embracer Group, then yeah, he's going to get pushback from the gamers. Now, the way I see it, what I was going to say about John Delarose is I think that John Delarose is trying to build a brand for himself, and he's trying to be the new Medicare. And the problem with that is that if I don't know if you know who Mr. Medicare is, but he was a big guy during Gamergate 1. He was called the Internet Aristocrat at the time. And he had a lot of videos, and he was very popular, mostly because his videos were funny, and he would do some decent work in terms of the research and stuff. But ultimately, he was a guy who did not want to care. So I think that what Delarose is trying to do is he's trying to have that same energy and build a brand for himself. And so that means that he's going to be like rude to people and trolly online because it gets him like support and clicks, because there is like a part of the gamer population that just wants to see like not the chuds, but the wokies get owned. And so he goes and owns them. But I think that he makes imprecise or wrong claims about what woke is. So
yeah,
woke
no,
is
he's an engagement grifter. Like when you talk about what is grifters at this level, it's John Della,
he's trying to
John
sell his-
Daniela. Yeah, I've been calling him John Daniela spit roast because that's, you know, it seems like he's kind of into that sort of thing while sitting here proclaiming like, you know, all this pious kind of, you know, religious minded, you know, just perspective on things. But then when you actually start like looking into who he is, it doesn't seem like he actually has the you know, I guess the structure in place to really keep his platform standing. And so like he's in a sense kind of just trying to you know, astroturf himself into that position that you're talking about, where he's somebody who can be seen in this light. But if you look at anything that goes to support that, other than just the thing he says right in the moment of here and now, it's not there. And it generally points to just the exact opposite. So yeah, he's an extreme drifter, and he should not be trusted by anyone at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to just make this like let's slap on this guy thing, but I'm just saying that's where that comes from. But I will say like a reasonable reply to that, and I already talked about it, because again, I think it was either Daniel Vavra or David Jaffe that said, "What is woke though? What is it anyway?" I just made it clear that it's critical consciousness, and that's it. It's critical consciousness. And what I think the problem with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is, as an outsider, because I didn't play the first one, I have no plans on playing either of them, is that it's not that he put a black guy and he put LGBT stuff in the game.
Right.
It's that he claimed in the previous title, he already like set up his canon and then he subverted it. So if the character you play is a, you know, like sometimes when you play a game, the character is like a blank slate, so the player can decide what they look like, how they react to things, how, you know, what their sexual orientation is or whatever.
Right.
But sometimes they're written a certain way. So if they make a Witcher game and you have Geralt in the game, there is lore on the character and there's canon that already exists. So players that are playing the game with Geralt or Luke Skywalker or whatever, they have an expectation of how they're going to act and what their, you know, personality is and what their views are. And if you change that suddenly, even if you like allow for it, you know, like you just say, well, if Geralt wants to be gay, he could be gay. It's going to turn players off because they're like, but that's not how he is. Even if there's an option. If there was the blank slate approach, then I guess you could do that. Then it wouldn't really matter. This is like Baldur's Gate 3, for example. You can make a character and you can be gay if you want to. Cyberpunk 2077, you can make a character in that, make him look like whatever you want. Your character's name is
trans,
and within
the framework of Cyberpunk being a trans character, it's a dystopic future hellscape. Actually, kind of makes contextual sense. So
it does. It's a transhumanist hellscape. But what I'm saying is that it's not the canon does not, you know, does not restrict that.
Right.
And I think, but what Daniel Vavra did was he took the character and changed it, even if it's optional. Because now you went from being straight. I think that like his best friend was like a womanizer in the game, in the first game, and that's the guy you can romance. Or there's I think he's one of the guys you can romance in the second game. So it's like, but that guy was a woman. So you're changing the canon in a fundamental way, and it has to beg the question why. And then let's add on top of that the fact that the one of the men, at least one, if I don't know how many there are, but I know that one of the male characters you can romance in the game is actually like 16 years old or something
right.
like that.
Although that one, like that one,
I know.
it's kind of a little bit weird because when you look at contextual reality to the time, like, you know, and even in contemporary cultures, like, you know, like that's one of those things where it's almost like that's kind of a weird kind of let's take modernism and graft it into the situation of like, oh, this is, and it's like, you know, that one I'm not as on point on, like,
well, this is what I'll say. I'm not going to accuse Daniel Vavra of anything, okay, based on that. But I will say this: if there are some like things that you think, oh, this is going to be challenging for people to accept, why put it in? Like, why even have romance options in games if it's going to be like this? You know what I mean?
I mean,
why include it?
Right. To your point, like what you're talking about in terms of, you know, a very crafted character, it would be as if, you know, for, you know, like Hideo Kojima, he has made it explicitly clear whenever you're playing through a Metal Gear Solid game, those games are about Solid Snake, which is why they're from a third-person perspective. You're, you know, initially, I know they put it in later that you could go into first person and things like that for the combat, but you're never supposed to feel as though metal like that Snake is a cipher for you and that you're actually the one making those decisions or anything like that. You're supposed to see the story of whatever version of Snake, you know, you're playing as. These are all established characters that have their own motivations, have their own, you know, this and that. And so, you know, when it would be like taking, you know, Snake, as it were, who's very well established for all of his intricacies, and then just saying, oh, well, it's open for, you know, your own interpretation. And so, I mean, I do understand some degree of people, you know, being up in arms about it. I myself, you know, like I said, I think that this is kind of one of those weird issues where, you know, at the surface, it's one thing. And at the surface, it's very easy to kind of like, you know, play it off as like, you know, this thing where it's just kind of like, well, it seems like people are getting aggravated over something that really isn't there. But again, this is what we were just talking about with the previous story, because this is a microcosm of that macrocosm of that, like, you know, what you see presented in the moment and kind of the way that it can kind of be talked away, you know, under the idea of like, well, you have your own ability to kind of like choose freely, what have you. But when you start kind of like seeing, you know, the connections to the Embracer group and, you know, kind of like the different levels of the insidious nature of things that have kind of like crept into it, I can understand fully why there will be people who say, well, we trusted this guy specifically because of his stance on things years ago, now going and making a very dramatic shift in terms of what his interest in all this is. And, you know, that's not to say that you can't have your artistic integrity and want to actually kind of open up the gaming space for other people to try things. But, you know, it's kind of like, that's why you can always make other stories, you know, and so if you kind of set down the path of doing one thing under a certain set of principles, when those principles and values that guide that shift, you know, then it is kind of open to the discussion. Now, if you wanted to say, well, you know, I learned from using those play mechanics and this and that, but now I want to go and introduce, you know, the viewpoint and the perspective of the player, and I want to, like, you know, make a story about that, well, then now you're talking about something different, you know. But when you go and kind of like put that stuff into the context of this thing that was established as something else, then yes, I do see how, like, you know, there is a lot of resistance and pushback and just kind of like, what the fuck is this all about going on? So it's a very interesting issue because, like I say, the the pieces within it are kind of innocuous, but it's when you kind of like see, it's like pulling out one noodle, but when you see the whole plate of spaghetti, as it were, then it's kind of like, oh, there's a lot of weird noodles here that are all entangled, and like it's presenting itself to kind of just be this thing that seems kind of benign and just part of the current status quo. Because I'll be honest, like my perspective has been shifting on this thing for the last few days, because it's one of those things where like more kind of comes out about it, more kind of gets reinforced. And that's the thing about like when you're actually doing in-depth investigations is you will wrestle with your thoughts on it and kind of like coming to some degree of understanding and appreciation. And this again would be one of those things where it's like, having public money in private game is private game companies is a really big issue. And I don't know that, having the game industry funded by, the powers that be through these money markets is really, to anyone's benefit ultimately. Like, like artistic integrity, to me is kind of the main thing that we kind of champion for independent game designers, more often than not. And what was I saying months ago? We're going to start seeing the independents get platformed, and we're going to start seeing faux independent games. And that is kind of what this is an example of right in front of us right here, right now. And there's going to be more of this,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I guess this is the modern audience. So we will we'll move on to the next story, but let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. All right. So next we got Anthony Mackie is in the news. So the new Captain America Brave New World is coming out, and I thought that, let me share this screen here and put it up. I thought I would share like what the latest has been. So dude, this is Dead on Arrival. So this is not, man, I'm not here just to like shit on it, but I'm just saying like the fact that these films are all just, going to be spectacular failures. I suspect this one will be as well. I don't think that they can save it. I mean, like they're done a lot of reshoots. They spent a lot of money on it already, but here's the latest kerfuffle. So, let's see.
This movie can make $1 billion and still not be profitable. That says something.
It has to make more than $1 billion to like break even, I think. It does, I think. Yeah. So Anthony Mackie discusses his views on why his character Sam Wilson should not be given the super soldier serum in the upcoming Marvel film Captain America Brave New World. Mackie argues that Sam's lack of superhuman abilities is what makes him relatable and emblematic of, quote, every man's Captain America, end quote. So he believes that Sam's heroism should be grounded in human qualities like leadership and strategy rather than superpowers, allowing audiences to see themselves in him. This approach, according to Mackie, broadens the character's appeal and representation, emphasizing that heroism can come from anyone. However, the article also notes skepticism. This is the article that I'm using here, which is this is from Fandom Pulse. I believe this is Jonathan Trent. Yeah, it is. So what was it? Oh, yeah. About whether this vision will translate effectively into the film, especially given the challenges of facing superpowered adversaries without enhanced abilities. So, all right. So this nobody wants this. Like everyone knows that they don't want this. Even of those that are left that still give a shit. Okay. Now, I grew up on Marvel Comics. It's always been like one of my favorite things for as long as Stan Lee was alive and working on it. And obviously they have crapped all over his legacy, and I already talked about Sana Amanat and what she has done. But the thing is, what this tells you is how bad this is going to be. This is insane damage control. So first you got, what did he say when he was sitting there at the convention? Captain America is a lot of things, but America is not one of them.
Right,
like, what? That's the only thing. It's like the most important thing. And then there was the thing where he said, he actually like said something like, shut the fuck up. It's just a movie.
Mhm.
Like it's over, bro. And now he's like, well, he's relatable. So you're telling us that he's not actually going to have powers, and instead he's just going to do incredible things as a normal person, and we're just supposed to believe it. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I've already seen the trailer. He's all for a normal person. He's not normal. It's like the way they write. It's like the way they write Batman. Okay, you can tell me all day and night that Batman is a guy without powers, but if he's doing the incredible and he has like immense amounts of plot armor, then it still isn't believable. So you're gonna have to tell the story well. Now, what I think they're doing is they're just trying to like cram whatever will work into this, and they've already done a bunch of reshoots, and I know it's gonna have a woke message in it. So they're trying to like do damage control, and it's just not gonna work. It's done. Like I'm sorry, it's done, guys. I think that, and I believe that I've been watching the old MCU movies with my wife because I own all of them up to like Infinity War or the one after that, the Endgame. Yeah. I love those movies. I mean, some of them are better than others, obviously. But a lot of the early ones are good, and I think that they were in the right place when it was under Paramount. But I thought Anthony Mackie really enjoyed his role as the Falcon for basically all the bits that he was doing that. But somewhere between like Endgame and that Winter Soldier show that sucked ass, I don't know if he changed or if he's like if he's been to a Diddy party and he's like on some kind of list somewhere, so he's just got to like toe the line. But he's become insufferable, and that's bad. Like, movie stars should not be on social media. like they should not be on social media. I saw like an interview with Scarlett Johansson, and she was telling the person that was interviewing her that she doesn't go on social media because it's too stressful for her, and she like just doesn't want to like deal with it. And I'm like, you know what? I have to give you credit. Like, your limits, and you don't want to do that. But and she doesn't. Generally, she doesn't use social media. Except for that cringy, like, let's all vote for Kamala Harris ad that she was a part of. I'm sure that she regrets that. But again, I think that this was just like this is doomed. Like, it was doomed from the moment from the moment Cap gave him the shield. I was like, it's dead. This is over. Because in the comics, it wasn't popular. Like, nobody liked it. They didn't like Bucky as Captain America in the comics, much less Sam Wilson. So all I'm saying is that this is obviously damage control. It's not going to work out. No one's going to buy this. It's a dead product now. Just stop it. Overlord Fluffy says Batman's power is money. Well, it seems to be, yeah. But I mean, like, you could say, I don't know. I think that Batman stories could be well done, but in film, they almost never get it right. I didn't watch The Batman with what's his name from Twilight, so maybe that did it better. I think that it should focus on him being like a detective that knows how to fight, but not like a fucking complete immortal badass that just happens to tell us he's all human while getting like all kinds of plot armor, which I think is what does a disservice, and I think that good writing doesn't need that. I mean, like, when you want, like, why do I like Die Hard? Because John McClane is believable, even if he is doing some things that are unbelievable. But you feel like this is like grounded more, and I think that you need writers like that, and I don't think that Hollywood has them. I don't think anybody with talent works there anymore. So check the Super Chow. I don't have those open, but let me see. I have to go into my Discord to look at it. Hold on a second. John, I don't know if you wanted to say anything about this, but John, are you there? John? He was to go deal with the owl. Let me see what the Super Chow says, if there is one. Oh yeah, I see it. Hold on a second. Super Chow channel. Great Indoors gives us $5 and says, on the other hand,
I'm back. My internet.
Okay, I didn't know that you. Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know you
good.
left.
Good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, my internet hiccuped. So whatever you're talking about, I
okay.
missed it.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll just. For how long were you not here?
You were in the middle, probably about like
3 or 4 minutes.
I was talking about this.
reset.
Yeah, I was talking about this Captain America thing. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Great indoors. I'm just gonna read his super chow. Great indoors gives us $5 and says, on the other hand, who has been the main puppet master of the counterculture side of the chessboard? Who was the prime mover of major characters like Carl Benjamin, Jordan Peterson? Who was the ink in the ointment? Ink in the ointment? Who grew? You mean the fly in the ointment? Who grew all of these different YouTube channels to great heights, but played the long game themselves by remaining in a 5D chess move very small instead? Who were the ones cleverly disguised as themselves? Rips curtains. It was Honey Badger Radio all along. Pistol in hand, always had been. I would like to believe that, but I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I know.
We talked to Sargon before he blew up. We talked to Blair White before she blew up. We talked to Jordan Peterson before he blew up. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess like I'll have to just take solace in perhaps contributing in some small way to that. But thank you for the super chat. Great indoors. Anyway, by the way, guys, if you want to send a super chat, oh no, I don't have it active on this. Never mind. Well, you can send a super chat and I'll be sure to like highlight it. And if you want to, if there's a game you want me to look at, send me a super chat for that as well. So anyway, all I was saying, John, is that, like at this point, I think that Anthony Mackie's been subverted, because I think he used to be like a guy that was relatively like, seemed like a good dude to work with and enjoyed his role and was, honored to be a part of it. And now, I don't know, there's like a different thing happening. It's like,
right.
I think that he might be on like a list, like a Diddy list.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like, there's either aspects like that, people try to keep under wraps as much as possible, or just like the idea of what is inception, and the ability to kind of get you to carry out my thoughts while the whole time thinking you're not even thinking that you've even been compromised, so and that is a large degree of the way that Hollywood operates at this point in time. That's why they like to get people when they're young and impressionable, and then kind of just codify within them everything that they're trying to manipulate into the general populace. Like, I don't know how many people that I deal with all the time that just can't separate the art from the artist, and like they'll say things like, oh well, I like so and so, and it's like, you don't even know who these people are. Like you get like a representation of like characters that they've played. Like you don't even have a good sense about anything, and so like and when things come into view that kind of challenge that, they'll quickly go to carry water for these corporations and their shills, because I mean that's ultimately what an actor really is they represent the agency of the company that they work for, and the companies that they work for put forth their intentions through their forms of media. It's just like this very interesting kind of thing where the world is shaped by the tastemakers, or it has been historically speaking, and it's only now that we're starting to see some level of shift to where people are actually able to get involved at a grassroots level, support who they want to support. Often happens in a lot of these YouTube channels in this kind of area of the internet, at least. And so, you're starting to get a little bit more of an actual perspective on the way people would be if they weren't inundated with all this top-down, control and all this kind of, just I guess inception that is trying to be played out through a variety of means. I mean, and even that in of itself is not met without opposition. I mean, that's part of the reason why they want to do everything they can to shut down the internet as it operates, and make it more of, basically a high-tech version of the cable industry where, where you're just being monitored throughout every moment of everything that you say, think, and do online, so they can figure out how to more easily kind of do those forms of inception and nudging, and like, and basically just have real-time analytical data on how you look at things, so they know where to kind of put more things covertly and then other things more overtly, and ultimately do all that stuff that we were talking about in the previous stories about getting it to where you appeal to authority or appeal to the masses or all this kind of stuff. And so if that's what Anthony Mackie kind of represents as Captain America, sure, he can be like the modern Captain America, which is something that really isn't to be celebrated. But he and of himself sits here and says that because he's not really Captain America. He's a mimic of Captain America,
Yeah.
and so he's just kind of wearing it like a skin suit, and but at the same time, like, he's more Captain Globalism,
Yeah, well,
and
he literally said, that's why he said, like, America's not one of the things
right,
that matters when it comes to America. I would totally like Captain Globe, yes. But
yeah,
Captain Globo Homo, technically.
right,
That's
right,
what I
right,
think. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, and so like, if we actually kind of look at it from that standpoint and kind of see it for what it is, then I think that this story will make a lot more sense. Where it's just like the idea that it's trying to wear a mask of familiarity, but ultimately it's playing out like this very insidious kind of power play, through something that would otherwise be seen as benign, but this is ultimately very cancerous, and destructive. So, you know, I'm not going to support it. I haven't really watched any. I haven't paid for any of these movies in the last
Yeah.
4 years, and I barely even watched any of them in that time as well, just because I realized what I was dealing with, and I've never trusted Disney. I've been talking to people for the last 30 years about how Disney is dabbling in dark magic and has all their connections to pedophilia rings and all this kind of stuff, and they just look at me like I'm like the worst person to destroy their childhood. And it's like, hey man, there's nothing wrong with like enjoying good stories, and things like that. But a lot of these things aren't good. They just, used to have the kind of familiarity and the reach that other things couldn't do. But we're at a point in time where, and this is the reason why they incepted video games, is because people started looking to other forms of media rather than getting caught up in this bullshit that was controlled by these powers that be. And so, we have to become more savvy. We have to be more nuanced and sophisticated and discerning in the way that we go about doing this stuff, and having nostalgia for these brand names and labels that we're used to. These people who sit here and say, "Oh, well, if they just change this, I'll give it a chance."
Where's my? Oh, here it is. This is the. All right. So, this is. Where is it? Oh, you're back. Okay, we lost you for a second there. Hello, John. Okay. So yeah, this is Gamergate. Nothing is beyond our reach. Kind of a cute one. And this is another one.
I spoke too much truth. I got silenced.
Yeah.
That's all right. We can move on though. That was pretty much.
That's cool. I'm just. I'm. That's okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna move on to the next thing, but I thought I'm gonna show off some artwork of Vivian James because Grums asked people to share it, and I thought I would look at some. Some of these are great. You guys know that when I start my shows, I had a guy help me make an animated Vivian lo-fi, like image for the show. So that's her playing some games on the computer. This is these are all old too. This is like from like Gamergate 1 stuff. This is her doing a JoJo pose. Let's see. Let's go back to Grums's thread here. This is a reference to, I think it's like a Gundam meme. I came here to laugh at you. There's more. So there's lots of these, and some of them are animated. That's pretty cool. And this one. So, like I said, it's a lot of people in the comments are like, I don't know who that is, but here's one of Vivian saying hashtag Gamergate never ended. Like that's another way to look at it.
Right.
So yeah, it's a thing, and this is kind of cool. And I wanted to let you know. So like, I've been talking with indie developers, and there's this one guy. I interviewed him from the last game jam that he did. He made a game called Tower, or I think it's called Blade of Aventine, and he just did another contribution for the most recent game jam, which was he actually made. I'm surprised at this, a multiplayer shooter. It's like a horde shooter, kind of like a Call of Duty Zombies type of thing. And I was talking to him after the show because back in 2015, when I met my wife in Canada, well, she wasn't my wife when I met her, but when I met my would-be wife in Canada, one of the things that we met under was we were working on a project. We wanted to make a mobile game that featured the Honey Badger, okay, which is the mascot for Honey Badger Radio. But since then, I was telling him about that. It's something I still like to do because like we made the artwork for it and everything, but the guy who was supposed to code all of it, he just fell off the planet. We never heard from him again. So I told this guy, and he said he'd be very interested in helping me work on it. I told him I'd like to make it like a 2D platformer or something like that, something small, not a big thing, but kind of fun. But then I had the idea of putting Vivian in the game. I think that a Vivian video game would be awesome, and there were people working on a video game, like a platformer in the style of like Mega Man or Metroid, and I think that could be very neat. Here's this is kind of, I don't know what this is, but I made the sprite of Vivian James for a game I made about Gamergate 2. I had no idea, so I'm gonna look that up. But you see that this is what I'm saying. Like when you have like this kind of stuff brings people together in the creative space. And that's what I love about this. Okay. Yeah, so like, there's a lot of Vivian stuff out there. And I would ask that in whatever way you are able, make her a part of your life. I love that. That's awesome. So
yeah. I think a Vivian James kind of exposing the globalism at play would be a great.
It's awesome, dude. It's
that
awesome.
would be a great game. Right there, like you could like
look at what the Great Rebellion did. Okay, it's an awesome game. I asked those guys. I was like, could you guys put Vivian James in your game? And they were like, I don't know. But like, who knows? They might. They added Stone Toss to the game, and that was a pretty nice little add-on. So also, probably the most base game to ever exist. But worth considering. So I think that like if since we're on the topic of creating things, like whatever you can make, I think that like making sure that people know, who Vivian James is, at least partly, so people don't accuse me of having like an identity crisis when I was using her.
Right. That was always the best part of the show.
Yeah,
like
the first, I had to explain myself.
We were doing this.
Now you get it. So, playable character for the Great Rebellion. Yes, it should be Vivian, right? It'd be the only female character. So anyway, I have a couple of super chats. Thank you so much to the guys who sent them through. I'm going to read them as we look at these Vivian images. So Master Gawa, thank you, Master Gawa, or Goa, gives us $5 and says, everyone complains about China. Meanwhile, the USA's greatest exports are literally the LGBT agenda and censorship through NGOs like USAID as cover. Yes, well, you're right. I mean, that's true. And that's something that I said, like, it's not just our government, but it is our government too. And we should be like aware of that. You're 100% correct, Master Goa.
Yeah.
That's why
I was gonna say the only thing I might say to it is just it's not so much the LGB, it's the TQ plus agenda. Because the TQ plus agenda is the part that really is astroturfed. Lesbian, gay people, bisexuals have been part of societies since the dawn of time, and I don't think anybody really necessarily has an issue with that in the grand scheme of things. But but the TQ plus, that is like a whole bunch of fuckery that is certainly Certainly sus to say the least. Yeah. But yeah, I'm picking up what he's putting down for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So thank you for that, and I agree. I that's why I think okay, so China's doing stuff. When they do stuff right, I will point to it and say, this is what they're doing right. Why aren't we doing it? And I think it is because of these NGOs. And by the way, NGOs are not good non-government organizations, even though it says it in the name. So just so you know, a lot of companies will call themselves, we're the feel good hugs and love for everybody organization, and they're totally evil. Like if they're telling you something that they represent, don't believe them.
Right. People show and tell all the time, but when they actually reveal themselves, that's when you need to pay attention, because we are steeped in so many forms of dark magic.
NGOs are
around
not private enterprise. It's a lie.
Right.
Okay. So
and most of them are supported by the Rockefeller Foundation. Like they have so many different think tanks, and they are very, very pressed on specific agendas, and most of them end up with you sitting in a pod without any choices to make other than when you're going to eat your bugs. Or whether you're going to starve today. And I mean, that's the Great Rebellion. We don't want a world where the Great Rebellion is a historical kind of pre-documentary, kind of like Idiocracy. We want these things to remain works of fiction.
Yes. Okay. So thank you for. Oh yeah, no, I was reading the super chat from Dean Domino. He said, "Here are some games to show when you get to the cake portion: Troubled Passage, Burning Sword, Death Sun, and Shady Night." I'm gonna leave that up until I put them in. But we are getting to the cake now. So let me see if there's any other really stand out Vivian James art here. A lot of this is stuff I've seen before. It's shit, right? There are some. Well, this is from a show. This is from Gotham, I guess, which is kind of weird that it looks like her. But I saw a photo of a girl that was literally playing a video game in an airport that was dressed exactly like Vivian James. I'm like, that couldn't have been an accident. And that's the thing too, is that there were cosplayers, there was artwork, there were video games, there were movies or animations, all kinds of stuff. So
and you never know too, that thing in Gotham not having any contextual basis for the episode, that could either be something where somebody was very based in the costume,
it's possible.
or it could be the very opposite, where it's like, well, we need to subvert this and kind of undermine it. I mean, I won't say one way or the other, not having seen it, but it is at least an interesting kind of, you wouldn't expect that, but there could be reasons behind that we don't even understand, or it just might be simple color theory where purple and green actually go together really well.
Well, it does. I mean, the Joker, purple and green, right? Yeah, it does go together.
And her hair is a very orangish form of red, so it's based on triadic color schemes. So. Yeah.
No, it was good. Well, the blue and the purple and green, I think, is a reference to 4chan. That's where the colors come from.
Okay.
That's why she has a clover in her band, because that was the 4chan logo. So she comes from 4chan. But then something happened on 4chan, and they created 8chan or Infinity Chan, and then it changed her bow to be more like a Mobius strip, instead of a 4-leaf clover. Anyway, that's deep lore of Vivian.
Hey, that's awesome.
So anyway, let's get into some cake. Show. Yeah, this is right. It's right. In case you didn't know, I assume you guys do though. All right, so let's look at some sales numbers. Once again, appreciate you guys coming on here. So first, we got Dragon Age: The Veilguard. I wanted to go through some. So this one, I think it's underperformed is the word they're going to use.
That's the word that they're using. Yes.
Yeah. I believe that underperformed. Yeah. We're at 4,000 players right now. Considering how big this franchise is, this is a sad state of affairs. Then we got Kingdom Come Deliverance. So this is actually 2, that is. It is a hit. I think that like this is one of those cases perhaps where the game is good enough that it doesn't really seem to matter that much, the stuff that the controversy around it. But I will say about this, and I said this about Baldur's Gate 3 as well. I want to see if there's a point in the future where they're going to look at what people did on their playthrough of Kingdom Come 2 to see how many of them, you know what I'm saying? Like, because like with Baldur's Gate 3, okay, for example, they put a bunch of like, you know,
weird kind of pansexuality.
Yeah, they added a bunch of weird pansexuality to it, but they also added a bunch of strange like choices in terms of your appearance. Like you can give yourself vitiligo for some reason,
right.
which is just weird. Like it's a weird thing to add. You can also like, you know, give your characters like ethnic features, even if they're playing fantasy races. So like, you know, elves that have Asian faces or dwarves that are black, that black faces, but then you can make the skin color whatever you want. So it almost tried to like satisfy too many options, and it just comes across as strange because it doesn't like work together.
It's very uncanny valley. It fucks with people.
Yeah, it is weird. But then they report, I think we covered it on the show like a while ago. They reported that they were one of the lead developers was like disappointed that, you know, basically most of the players just played a straight white dude that was like a fighter. They didn't get into any of the weird stuff. They just were like, yeah, I'm gonna make a straight white dude. So, and what I want to know is when this has been out for about 3 months, 4 months, are they gonna go back and figure out how many people chose the gay relationship and how many people didn't? And I'm guessing that most people are not going to, and it's going to be a very small percentage, which should, in theory, call, if that turns out to be the case, it should call into question, well, is this worth doing? Because it does cost extra manpower, extra money, and extra time to put this stuff in the game. And if no one's using it, then like maybe it's not worth it, right? So even if the game sells, if they decide to go back and figure out like how popular were these options, they might learn. I think that's also been true of other games that have relationships. They're mostly heterosexual, they're mostly male, and they were mostly white. Like in almost every game where you can make your own character and do your own thing. So yeah. But anyway, so that's Kingdom Come Deliverance. It seems to be a hit for now. I know David Jaffe did a whole stream on it. Oh, look at that. Oh, take that, chuds. But again, we'll see. So Helldivers 2 is a little higher right now. It's at 83,000. And one of the reasons is I just thought I would mention because some of the games that we typically, they came out with a new war bond, and they added and basically a lot more events. Like there's crazy stuff going on. So in the game, I played a little bit of it yesterday just to check it out. So it is still going pretty strong, and it's on sale now, $31.99, so 20% off of Helldivers 2. I still think it's good. Another game that's also gotten a recent update is Space Marine 2, which is at 15,000 players. And the reason is because they added a more free DLC. So you can see that it spiked right around the time that came out, which was the day before yesterday. And they added like a new enemy type that could like spawn into your games. And they added a bunch of like customization in terms of like your aesthetics and stuff. They even now, for people who are Warhammer fans, they added that helmet that has like the beak on it, you know, like the beak face from you know what I'm talking about?
From the Plague Doctor.
Oh, sort of. Yeah, it looks like that, but it's I don't know. I guess in the older Warhammers that the helmets, some of them had the beak. In the game Bolt Gun, which is like a boomer shooter that they made, Warhammer 40,000 Bolt Gun, the main character has that helmet, and they added those to Space Marine 2 now. So if you want to make the guy from Bolt Gun in Space Marine, you can. And so it's pretty cool, and I think it's a neat way to, you know, sort of I like the customization. That's fun. Okay, what else do we have? Dragon. Did I ever look at Dragon Age of Veilguard? Did I already? Yeah, I did. Okay,
that's the first one.
So that was the first one. Okay, so Marvel Rivals. in the middle of, they're getting close to the middle of season 1. Still massive, 250,000 players. The fact that it's free to play though might have an effect on that, but it is still pretty popular. It looks like it's starting to like lower, but I think that they're going to release 2 new characters very soon to the roster, and that's going to be massive.
Yeah.
So let's see. What
yeah,
other
I
games
saw
should I
someone
look?
complaining that the characters aren't black because it's Black History Month, and it's like,
Oh God,
shut
shut
the
up.
fuck up.
Well, they're gonna. I
Shut
think
the
they
fuck
might.
up.
Yeah, it's really nobody. Black History Month. I think there was an executive order canceling it. Like it doesn't exist anymore, guys.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. He didn't do that. But I would love it if he did. I think that needs to go. But anyway,
Yeah. We have history
yeah.
every day of the year. You just
Yeah.
have to like, be invested in it.
Gabriel
Yeah.
Phelan Lucas corrects me on my obvious like lack of knowledge of the Warhammer lore and says Mark 6 Corvus armor. You tourist. Thank you. Thank you, Gabriel. Let me see. Oh yeah, they added a suicide Hellbomb backpack. That's right, they did to Helldivers too. It was there's like a portable Hellbomb. I mean, I haven't gotten it yet, but it sounds like hilarious. I did get one of those shovels though. They're like lying around on some of the planets. You can just, it's like a melee weapon. It's very strong. It's a shovel. That's what it is. Okay, so anyway, yeah, Marvel Rivals are going to release the Human Torch and the Thing and possibly Blade, although they're keeping that under wraps. But Blade is definitely coming. So you're going to get your black guy, okay? So
Yeah.
just wait, just hang in there. Anyway, Multiverses, which was we reported on last week, is dying. Only 800 people in game. It's unfortunate, but like Warner Brothers has just been, man, they have been on the decline. Let me see. Well, speaking of Warner Brothers, let's look at Suicide Squad. So Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. Let's take a look here. Ooh, 280 players. So Multiverses is going to be ending in March. But anybody who downloaded it can keep the game, like because it's we just play it locally. But yeah, they're done supporting it.
Is it
It's
March
dead.
or May? I thought it was the end of May.
Oh, maybe you're right. Maybe it's May. I thought it was March. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it's May.
Yeah, I think it's
So-
May 30th. Because I think that they're putting out the update, and then it's going to go for like about 90 days or so from when the update comes out.
Yeah. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, Suicide Squad. It has 280 people in the game. It's basically dead. What's another one you want me to check? What's another game?
Let's see.
Meanwhile, I'm gonna. Yeah.
I mean, we can always just look at Wukong just because it's.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, I'm forgetting. Black Myth Wukong. 22,455.
I think that's the lowest I've seen. It's
Yeah.
it's players, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's still over 50,000 in the last day. So I mean, that's still quite good for a single player experience. That's 6 months old now.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's see. What's another one, you guys? Well, I think that's good. Let's look at
Yeah,
let's look at these games. Let's get
that you got
let's
paid to
look at
check out.
those. We got I got paid to check them out, so we're gonna take a look at them. So first they mentioned Troubled Passage. So let's take a look at that. All right, so searching that right quick. I'm gonna be on YouTube for this one. We'll see if there's just a trailer. Troubled Passage in 60 seconds. Second. All right, and I'll switch to this tab. All right. Troubled Passage is a solo project still in development. This does not represent the final look of the game. The game is very uncommon combat system.
This is Indie Game Sunday. This is a demo for the game Troubled Passage. Tutorial? Yeah, so make sure you do the tutorial. Play your customization. I'm a hot redhead. Choose a path and do the thing. The combat mechanic is definitely different. You swipe your mouse to attack. They didn't have to die, but I chose to kill them. Gambling? I'm in. Watch out for the snitches blowing the horns, but also bring it. There is a lot to loot. Forge your own sword? This wipe is actually so satisfying.
Oh yeah.
Green loot.
It's like playing Fruit Ninja.
Leveling up feels so good. Hell, even dodging feels good. Break homies out of jail, and they'll team up with you. For a demo, 8 out of 10. Can't wait for the full thing.
So there's a demo available of this. That's cool. Okay, and I'm gonna look up Shady Night. Hold on a second. So let's take a look at that. Reminds me of Black and White, but less abstract. All right, here's a trailer. I don't know how long this is. I hope it's not too long. Oh yeah, a minute. Oh, this is Shady Night. Oh, skill-driven melee action. Dude. Master your moves. Kind of like Mirror's Edge a little bit, but medieval. Right from above. Is that what you're doing right now? Fight with style. My favorite thing to do.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that I wanted to have in Havenstall back in the day. Very vertical based combat. Especially using that chain as a weapon.
Nope. Good. I'm not hating on that one. I mean, I like the other one too. Actually, it was kind of interesting, that mechanic of like using your mouse to attack enemies. Then you said Burning Sword Death Sun. I actually played this game on my channel. The demo I had crashed on me when I was trying to play it. But it did look very promising. So Blazing Sword Death Sun looks like it's essentially another sort of action game, like, you know, Devil May Cry and all that. Like a lot of, and Black Myth Wukong, it's got like a lot of that. There's also a game coming out that I'm super excited for. I'm like forgetting right now what it's called. But oh yeah, Phantom Blade Zero. Dude, that game looks amazing. But anyway, let's take a look at this.
Last time I defeated you, remember?
There's another Chinese game.
Do you really
so there's
think
a lot of
this
Chinese
time the
games coming
result
out.
will be different?
And we're gonna have to confront that. So like, you know, Western devs are gonna have to step up, man.
So he is the last leader of the Crimson Dust Demon sect who disappeared 5 years ago. Zhang Yixian. That devil sect. They're renowned for their heretical and ruthless ways.
Everything ends here. Right here, right now! Now perish!
I've trained year after year for this day!
Your sword can't even scratch me!
Your emotions will put all of us at risk. I can't let you ruin my plan!
My training is brutal as hell. Are you sure about that?
I would say,
Yeah,
you know, to what you were saying,
Yeah,
I think we have a better capacity to actually put out things that are a little bit more based, given recent developments by actually exposing.
I agree.
This,
some of this other shit's not going to get the funding that it used to, and that is promising.
Because I mean, I will say this for like Chinese game development is they've just been focusing on making games, not putting in fucking stupid messaging and shit like that. So.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but because even if it's true, and I don't doubt that they have also been like trying to, using money to subvert our culture, but we've also been, our government was subverting our own culture.
Right.
At the end of the day, like we have to make a choice, right? If China can essentially, hold itself to the standard that it wants its clients to do, even if it's to compete on the market, then US should be doing that too. That's what I'm saying. Like Western devs, we are not going to support you. Like, you don't get to tell us, well, it's either us or the Chinese. It's like, well, most people are going to choose the Chinese, dude.
Yeah.
Like, whether you like it or not, that's what's going to happen.
Right.
So,
and before anybody gets on their high horse about any of that, fucking Walmart is China Direct, and most people buy their shit from Walmart or Amazon, which also gets a lot of shit from China. You know, if you want to like change that, bring industry back to America. Actually have textiles and things like that made here. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, you know, we just need to support the people who are doing good work. And look, that doesn't mean I haven't bought anything Chinese in terms of games, but I'm saying that if you can't blame regular gamers for doing that, because you have to look at the fact that the bulk of the market is regular ass gamers that are just looking for something good. And if Burning Sword Death Sun or Black Myth Wukong or Phantom Blade Zero, if they look good and they buy that, you can't blame them. You can only put the blame at the Western devs who are not competing. And they're not. Like, AA is doing all right, but I'm saying that's going to happen. So, you know, anyway. So yeah, I actually
when
played.
you're going up against like an actual Olympic runner and you're just playing at Special Olympics kind of capacity, you're never going to win.
Right, exactly. So I did play Burning Sword Death Sun on my channel. I believe I played until it crashed on me, and I think that's got more to do with my machine than the game itself. But you can check out the demo for that, and I thought it was pretty good. But again, it is just sort of like a combat system that's sort of, you know, like the standard that they're doing. And that's the thing too, is that, you know, like Black Myth Wukong, Phantom Blade Zero, they're going to play similarly. I would say check it out. There's also a game I checked out called Bloody Spell. I think I got it for free. I don't remember. And that one also is a Chinese game that has like, you know, similar kind of combat mechanics. And there's like loot and leveling up and skills and things like that. So I don't know, check it out. See what China and Korea are doing, you know? Okay, so I got a super chat from Zeranx, who gave us $2 and says, the girl from Gotham was a young Poison Ivy. Yeah, I saw that in the description, that's what they were, because that's what the whole thing was about, right? Let me see if I can show you guys the Phantom Blade Zero combat that I just saw recently. That looks really good. And let me see. This is the one from 2 weeks ago. So,
oddly enough, a PlayStation 5 exclusive. So it looks like there's finally another game to join Astrobot as only being available on PlayStation. So, yay! Good for you, Sony.
That's too bad for them, because like, isn't the network down right now? Like, from what I heard.
It's totally fucked. I canceled my PSN account. So they better give me some free time on top of all this shit.
So I'm gonna, this is not too long. Watch some of this. This is Phantom Blade Zero, which I recommended. But if it's only available on PS5, then this might be like a worthless endeavor.
But that said, how many things come out on the PS5 and are only on the PS5? You know,
not a lot.
It'll be on PC in 6 months of its launch date.
You see what's going on here? They're like marionettes. There is one puppet master, the one with the blue eyes.
I've checked out this game a few times. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is dope as fuck, bro. Are you guys having issues? Let me check.
I'm having my connection, but that's always a weird thing.
Oh, okay. Are you guys having issues? I'm only gonna play a little bit more of this, and then I'll stop it. So the end of the first phase. Maybe I'll give him a second to come back. This game is too hype for YouTube. Rated H for hype. Yes, I think that. Oh, John is back.
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. I'm wrapping up now anyway. So,
Indeed.
yeah. So, yo, did you guys see the new Onimusha trailer from Capcom? No, I have not, but I'll check it out afterwards. I gotta end the show here though. But thanks guys for coming on. The
shit's the bed anymore than it already is.
Yeah. It's okay. We're gonna wrap it up here. So thanks guys for coming on the stream. Let me know what you guys think about all the things that we talked about in the comment section. Thank you, John, for taking the time to join me on the show. And
I was gonna say if anyone is so inclined later today, I would say that you can either join for the Scooby Pup podcast, which will be at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Pacific, where I will be in the background just doing tech support and production work. But Scooby's going to be talking with Ryan Roger Athay today about more Disney MCU fuckery and whatnot. Otherwise, I would also say at the same time, Toasty with the Mosty. Toasty is going to be doing another panel stream, which those are always fun. And other than that, tomorrow we'll be doing Will of the Fans at the normal time, which is 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. And then, of course, the Old White Road, which we do at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific in the afternoon.
All right.
So, but yeah, other than that, just safe travels ahead. Have a wonderful week going forward. Be awesome as always. And thank you again for a wonderful conversation. I think today was certainly one of our more insightful ones that we've had in quite some time, getting into the actual witchcraft, as it were. So,
yeah. All right. Well, thank you again, John. Thank you guys for joining me. If you like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, to the bell for notifications. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you guys coming on for joining us on this episode of The Week in Culture. And we'll talk to you guys in the next video. Long live Vivian. And Vivian, why don't you say goodbye to everybody? Vivian, why don't you say goodbye to everybody for me, please?
Just like a woman.
Error.
Okay.
Code insufficient
Shut up. Okay, let's all right then. Yeah, we're gonna end the show there. Thanks guys for coming on, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one. See you later.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
I want people in the industry to be a little bit louder about people being mean to other people, and maybe say it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe say we don't want you around if you're going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
And hateful. And that the games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker. And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. Physically. Bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Yep.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.